Hello, guys, and welcome to Between the Ropes TV. Welcome to our live stream we're doing tonight. We are going to be covering the Sky card and the DAZN card that was on at the weekend. Guys, it's just me tonight. Josh has had a bit of an issue, personal issue, so he won't be joining us tonight. But I'm just going to go through the cards real quick. And have you guys join me for some comments. And let you guys tell me what your thoughts were on the Sky card and the DAZN card. I thought were fascinating cards. You had the Sky card, which was all about the future of British boxing, the future of British boxing on Sky, and you had the DAZN card, albeit there was more established stars on there, world champions. But that was a really, really exciting card for the purists. It was great to see. It was a great combination, great mix of good boxing that we saw. I start with my thoughts on the Sky card. Start with Karis Altensol making a debut at featherweight. Anyone who saw her in the Olympics knows what she's about. She's a real purist boxer. She's a delight to watch. Her and her partner, Lauren Price, have got two different styles, but they're both very, very effective. Karis did everything that I thought she would. She got the points win against her opponent. She looked sharp. She looked sharp, got punches together. One of the criticisms against these amateurs turning pros that they don't have power. That's not something that you'll hear me say, because the skill set of these boxers and their experience against top quality, high level amateur boxers means that as they progress and face better opponents, those better opponents start making mistakes when they're coming forward, leaving gaps and openings that these very, very good amateurs exploit. And that's when you'll start seeing the TKOs. It is always about the flashy knockouts that you get earlier on in your career. Sometimes you don't learn from those. What you do learn is from those really tough win or journeymen who just took up and they're there to survive, because you don't get that very often in the amateurs. And it's a long time since the like of Karis Altensol or Caroline Dubois, Lauren Price. The list goes on of those talented female boxers. They don't have that in amateur boxing at the top level. You don't have that sort of journeyman or journeywoman like opponent. So it's a more like a learning experience for them. And Karis did well. I was very impressed. She's got, like I said in the preview with Josh, she's in a good corner. She's got a good corner. She's got a good camp, and she'll learn a lot. They're very experienced in the pros and the amateurs from what they did with from what McCracken did with Carl Froch, what he did with Anthony Joshua. So I've got every confidence that he's going to guide Karis Altensol all the way. And I'm not just saying that, and I suppose I'm going back on myself by saying I don't judge my fighters unless they've had 10 fights, and that's true. But you do get a good indication of how good somebody's going to be, and I think Karis is going to do very, very well. So I was markedly impressed with her. Moving on, probably the most talked about prospect under 10 fights we have in this country, Adam Azim. Guys, I want to hear your thoughts on Adam Azim. The lads at Between the Ropes are really, really keen to hear what you got to say about him. In our group chat, there's mixed, some of us are saying that he's going to go right to the very, very top, win a world title. I'm a little bit more reserved on that. Don't get me wrong, he's got a lot of talent. He has got a lot of talent. He's got a lot of ability. He seems explosive. If any fighter typifies their coaching style, it's definitely going to be Adam Azim. He's explosive, he's quick, he's sharp, and he doesn't mess around. Boxing, how are you doing, fella? How are you doing? He is exciting to watch, and he can hit with both hands. And I suppose that's what makes him really exciting. He wasted no time in getting his opponent out in the first round. What I like about him is he sees an opening, he jumps on it straight away. There's no feeling out process with Adam Azim. Um, it's almost like he kind of knows what he's doing on his third punch by the time he's thrown his first. He's a real thinking fighter. People are drawing comparisons to Amir Khan, but the only two comparisons I see is one, he's quick, really quick, and two, is the British Pakistani heritage. I think his ring IQ is pretty good. He thinks before he throws. Where Amir Khan just threw punches and bunches. He threw about threes, fours, and fives. Left himself exposed when he was using his feet to get out of range, and that's when he got clipped. Adam seems a bit more ring savvy on the inside. Again, it's early doors. It's really, really early doors. And I think the problem that they're going to have with him is how to match him, because he's been publicized, he's been promoted really, really well with Sky, and he's been hyped up a lot. Let's be honest, he has. He's been hyped up a lot. They're talking about him being a world champion in 2 years. Looking at that lightweight division, that's going to be very, very tough. But they need to match him carefully, because when he gets to that stage, they can't afford to see him fall, because it looks as though Sky are putting all their eggs in the basket with this fella. I like to see him in more progressive fights. Boxing, I see you in the chat, others in the chat, let me know who you would like to see him up against. There's been a lot of talk about putting him in with Ryland Charlton. A good fight. That's a very good fight. Ryland's experience, he's seasoned, and Ryland can punch himself. I mean, he knocked down, when he was up at welterweight, which he shouldn't have been fighting at, but when he was up there, he got rid of Joe Laws, no problem, and he put down Florian Marku. So he can definitely punch. It's whether or not Ryland Charlton would take that fight, whether he sees that too much of a risk. If you're asking for me, in my opinion, I would like to see him in with some of the seasoned gatekeepers, if you like, your Jeff Afaris, your Ronnie Clarks, even someone like Ryan Doyle, who was in the prize fighter not so long ago. People like him would be ideal, because these guys need a big fight to get themselves back into the mix, back on TV again, back on people's minds again. Ronnie Clark had that famous win against Alpha Barrett. So yeah, somebody of that caliber. He needs that experience, because these guys have got the potential to take him all the way. So the way I see it is, if one of these guys can take his power early on, they're going to ask questions of Adam Azim, because what's Adam Azim going to do then? Let's just say they read his jab and they cope with his, the timing, they cope with his speed. What's he going to do then? So we're going to need a plan B. In some cases, we're going to need a plan C. And then there's the old questions about his chin, his heart, his stamina. We haven't seen those answered yet. So we need to see later on how he progresses. And if he keeps putting people out in the first round, although it's spectacular and it looks good and people talk about it, it's easy to sell him. You're not answering those questions, and what you don't want to do is get to any sort of title level and be found out. So get those guys in nice and early, and we'll see what he's about. We'll see whether he's worth the hype. Yes, Michael, thank you very much, mate. Good to have you on board. Yes, that smile comes on whenever Joe Laws gets mentioned, because Joe Laws is from our way. Ryan and Michael are from the northeast, and Joe Laws is a very interesting character. And Joe Laws was on a bit of a run, and even though I thought Ryland would do a job on him, I wasn't expecting Ryland. I'll be honest, I wasn't expecting Ryland to beat me in that fashion. And kind of Joe's, he's had a loss since then. He's not really looked the same since then. But look where it's put Ryland Charlton. He was a favourite in that BOXXER tournament, and he only just lost it. Well, Dylan Kima did beat him quite well, but he lost in the final. So it's not, there's still some life in Ryland Charlton, who's got plenty of ability, especially when he's coming forward. That brings me on to the main event on the card. Sam Eggington against Zist, his Polish opponent. That was 18-0 going in, albeit again wasn't against stellar opponents. He was still 18-0. It was a good performance by Eggington. He did what he needed to do. It wasn't anything different. We didn't learn anything new from Sam in that fight. It was a typical Sam Eggington fight. He he took punishment. He took a lot, but that's the way Sam Egerton fights. He got his win, he got his ranking, he got his IBO title, and it, as Josh rightly said, it puts him in the mix for good fights. So I guess the next question is, well, who did it put him against? Are they careful with him, or do they look at the fact that Sam has probably overachieved? If you was to sit Sam Egerton and he was to be in front of me, he would admit he only came into the sport to be a journeyman. So I guess it's, what does he want to do? Does he want to pick up another world title? Does he want to challenge one of the world titles? I mean, you've obviously got Charlo, who's undisputed at that weight class. The chances of him getting into a mandatory position to face him, well, they would have to carefully match him. It's whether or not they're going to take that risk with him. Michael says, I can't believe Egerton didn't put him away in the first few rounds. Bit of power, and he could have got Zisk out. Tough bloke, him. Like, yeah, he was tough as all boots. I mean, I've never known Sam Egerton to be a puncher. I've always seen him to be a swarmer. What I mean by that is he throws a lot of punches. He relies more on accuracy, more on where he's an opponent down, and getting his opponents out by a TK or on a points decision rather than a puncher. But yeah, you're right. He caught this clean with shots that anyone who had an ounce of power about them would have got Zist out of there. So definitely you've hit the nail on the head there, Michael. But what I would say is that's Sam Egerton all over. And that's I suppose the thing with Sam is, if he comes up against somebody who's durable, somebody that can hit hard just as back, or has gotten a very effective jab, you're going to be beating Sam Egerton. So it's going to be a problem, because if you look at the likes of who he could face, there are some good fighters in that division. And while you're there, Mickey, who would you like to see Sam Egerton against? Personally, I like to see him against the winner of Troy Williamson or JJ Metcalf when that fight gets announced. I think, for speaking to Troy, who was on our channel, if you haven't seen that interview, go and check it out. Troy, great fighter, great bloke. Check out that interview. Troy's saying that purse bids for that fight are going to be next month in July, and that fight will probably get made, we think, later on in the year. I would agree with you there, Mickey. I think Troy would be a good fight for Sam. Troy can box, Troy can punch, he can just about do it all. So I would say Troy Williamson would be a good fight. Also, the guy that lost to Jamel Charlo, Castaño, I think that would be a good fight. Castaño's got a very similar style to Sam Egerton. He throws a lot of shots. He comes forward. His defense isn't as tight. It was tighter in this fight against Charlo, but Charlo's jab was just on point. He just timed that effectively. He put Castaño on the back foot quite a lot. But I think that would be a real phone booth fight. They wouldn't need a ring for that fight. They could just fight in a phone booth. That would be a good fight. Also, Erickson Lubin. I think that would be a good fight as well. Hopefully he recovers from that loss against Sebastian Fundora. That was a heavy loss, and he had some heavy facial damage, but that would be a good fight for Sam Egerton. I feel as though Sam doesn't need those tune-ups. He's just straight into it. Yeah, that's a great shout. If Mickey, great shout, Mickey. See, Ted Cheeseman wants to come back, because I'm not too sure whether he's retired yet. I'm hearing rumours that he is. Hopefully, they're just rumours. That was a great fight. And I thought that was a closer fight than people said. That was a real fight of the year. And I had, I've had people say to me they thought Cheeseman won. I know Josh, he saw that as a real close fight. I don't know what you think about that, Mickey, or anyone else in the chat, but a lot of good people that I know and trust's opinion on boxing said Ted Cheeseman won that fight. So yeah, why not run that back? It gives Cheeseman an incentive to come back, an IBO world title. That'll be an interesting fight for both parties in that one. So there's some options there for Sam Egerton. There's some options there. Again, when he lost against Liam Smith, when he had that defeat against Cheeseman, sort of, because you could always have run that back, but definitely against Liam Smith, you kind of wondered where Eggington was going to go, and he's been on a pretty decent run since then. So fingers crossed it's all looking up for him. But yeah, guys, that brings me up onto the DAZN card, and this was a fascinating card. This card had everything. It had knockdowns, stoppages, pure skill, aggression, power, class, the making of a new star. It had everything, in my opinion. And you can disagree with me if you want. Call me names if you want. Go ahead in the chat. I had that down as one of the best matchroom cards in years. I say it again. That was one of the best matchroom cards in years. I thought it was brilliant. We'll start with Ray Ford. Ray Ford was he was up in a 10-rounder, and I forget the guy's name. He was fighting in. Guy called Medina. I just checked on my phone there to go through the scorecard, and I'd seen Ray Ford a few times. He'd been on a few of the DAZN cards, on the other cards, and he'd been quite hit and miss. I saw him in one fight when he got a draw, and I thought he was a bit unlucky there. But on Saturday, he put it all together. I didn't give Medina a round. I thought Ray Ford was excellent. He used his feet really, really well to get out of the way, to get around the ring, and he couldn't miss with his jab. It wasn't an exciting performance. Don't get me wrong. You're not going to watch that and think, wow, this kid's a world beater, or this kid's going to cause carnage on the scene. What you got to look at is skills pay the bills, and this kid is effective with his job. He really is. He's really accurate, and he doesn't get hit a lot. He makes his opponents miss, and then he counters. And when he was countering with his straight left. He was causing damage. He was always a ring general. He was always in control of the fight. He controlled the distance, and that's what you like to see from a boxer. He's very, very skilled, very, very skilled, and it looks as though he's learned the hard way from those fights that he had. I wouldn't be surprised if we're talking about Ray Ford in the same way that we're now talking about Tevin Farmer. You know, in terms of not the most devastating or constructive puncher, but a real skilled technician who's pretty much a defensive master. I have a feeling Ray Ford's going to be in that league, which isn't a bad attribute to have, because Tevin Farmer won a world title. So that's how I rate Ray Ford. I like him. I think he's very skilled, and I really want to know what you guys think, because he was, for me, he looked the part. It was a good performance, good win, and again, I want to see him again. I'd happily want to see him again. So let me know what your thoughts were on that fight. The next fight on the card was Jessica McCaskill, who's undisputed at 147. Don't forget, she was up against the Argentine Ibarra. That was a real barnstormer of a fight. Both girls came into the center of the ring and just had it. Now, for me, Jessica McCaskill is an absolute beast at 147. She blew this girl away. She hit her with left hands, right hands. She couldn't miss. Don't get me wrong, she caught McCaskill a couple of times, but McCaskill rode through it. She had no respect for Ibarra's power. And once Ibarra felt McCaskill's left hand, particularly the left hook, in the middle of the exchange, it was a counter, came over Ibarra's right hand. That was it. You felt as though, although Ibarra was stronger, I would say, in the first round, she was stronger in the first round. As the fight wore on into the third, when it was eventually stopped, it was apparent that she wasn't well. In the second round, she just didn't want to be there, and a corner pull her out, essentially. She was arguing, and you could hear her in the corner shouting, no, no. She wanted to continue, but a corner could foresee what was more than likely going to happen is that she would have got absolutely bulldozed in the next round. It was a great performance by McCaskill, and that's the reason why she's undisputed. Nobody touches her at that weight class. She's now on about coming down to 140. She's eyeing up Chantel Cameron. What a fight that would be. Chantel Cameron's got a similar style. She likes to come forward. She can get behind her jab a bit more than McCaskill can. But McCaskill sees herself as a natural light welterweight. She sees herself as a natural 140-pounder. If McCaskill, who's been at welterweight a while, can safely do that weight, I see only one winner for this fight. I don't see how Cameron copes with that physicality, that strength, that aggression, the accuracy. I just can't see it. I can see Cameron boxing well at parts. But guys in the chat, you'll have to let me know what you guys think, because I can't see how Cameron or anyone at 140 can beat McCaskill. If she was to rematch Katie Taylor, I still fear McCaskill. The only way I see McCaskill getting beat is if she goes north. If she steps up with the big girls at 154, or she gets one of the girls at middleweight to come down. I can't see anyone between lightweight and 147, between 135, 147 beating her. She's just too strong, too aggressive, too clinical, too powerful. Yeah, she's and not just that, she's effective with her aggression. A lot of people, as I mentioned about Khan, they throw the shots without thinking. She's intelligent. This is what I call real effective aggression. Making her shots count, being economical with her punches, and that's what I like about McCaskill. She's a thinking brawler, and that's going to make it very, very difficult to beat her, particularly when she's got the physical advantages. But it was a great fight. But like I said, let me know who you think wins between Cameron and McCaskill. No doubt there'll be some Cameron supporters amongst us. The next fight was Mirajon Akhmeladiev. Hope I got that right. Against Rios, also known as MJ. Akhmeladiev. So I'll just call him MJ for short. Now, for those of you that haven't seen MJ, he was a unified champion at super bantamweight in only 8 fights. This Uzbek is very, very skilled. One of the best body punchers in boxing today. He's tremendous. If you haven't seen this guy fight, you need to go and watch him fight. This fight had it all. Rios wasn't a bad fighter. Rios was very physically strong himself. He kept coming forward. It's almost like he tried every single style he could against MJ. But MJ was very effective at breaking him down. What MJ did really, really well is his southpaw. He would lead in with his right hand, touch him to the head, take a back step, come on the inside again, use his footwork angles similar to Lomachenko, and then go for his body. Those left uppercuts to the body were causing real damage for Rios. And at times it was almost wincing for Rios to have the fight stopped earlier than it was. It was eventually stopped in the 12th. But he caught Rios with some lovely body shots. Rios is tough. If you saw that fight, let me know what you thought of it, because I thought it was an absolute brilliant fight, real strategic fight. It told us a lot about MJ. It told us that actually he does carry power. Not only does he have skill to back it up, skill's a word that you're hearing me use about these fighters in the DAZN card, because that's what each fight was. Each fight was highly skilled in terms of the winners there. That's what they showed. MJ showed real ring craft. He showed footwork, head movement. He showed how effective he was in the pocket. What you see with these Eastern Europeans, the likes of Lomachenko, Golovkin, Bivol, the very best of them, they're really, really effective in short and mid-range. And that's why you saw MJ come to life. Not so much long range, although he had the footwork to do, to know, touching up his opponent on Rios on the outside. He did all his best work mid to short range. And that's what I liked about him, because that's entertainment value. I like the style of boxing. I like my outside boxers. I like my people who use my jab, use the feet to get in and out of range, don't take much punishment. But these guys mix it up. These guys are happy to train on the inside. You know, if they're going to shot, they're going to have to get wet, and that's what's exciting about these guys. That, you know, they're not. There's a bit of a stereotype around, you know, Eastern European fighters that they, you know, the boring, the point scoring fighters from the old point scoring amateur system, but the ones that are coming through aren't like that. MJ was class, and it all leads to that big fight, that big unification fight he's going to have with Stephen Fulton. That's gonna be a real clash of styles, real interesting fight. You got Fulton, who's got the smooth skills, who's a beautiful boxer, really good on the outside, and then you've got MJ, who's more effective short and mid range. So it depends on who's going to be the ring general in that fight, because they're the one that's going to control the distance. And if you can control the distance in that fight, you know, have you establish your job in that fight, then that's the way that fight's going to be won. Because they're both as good as each other, I just can't tell you how that fight's going to go. Boxing historian Davey Fulton, how you doing, mate? How you doing? Thanks for tuning in. Hope you're well, mate. Yeah, I've just been talking about the Fulton, the Fulton MJ fight and how I think that may go. MJ's in Akhmadiev. You let me know how you think that fight will go. Obviously, Fulton is getting the credit he deserves now for having those wins at super bantamweight. And MJ is starting to get that recognition now. I've got a feeling a lot of people hadn't heard of him. Maybe he's keeping a low profile. He's not as loud on social media, if that makes sense. And he's from Uzbekistan. But with performances like that, it's difficult to ignore, isn't it? It's difficult to ignore performances like that when you're taking apart people like Rios and stopping him in the manner that he did. So it's good to see, and I think that fight between MJ and Fulton will go down as a classic, almost like the Chocolatito Estrada fights. That I'm going to put it there. But let me know what you think. Joel, how are you doing, mate? Great to have you on. Nice to hear from you, pal. Hope you're well, guys. Let me know what you thought of the DAZN card, what you thought of the Sky card. Drop your comments in. I've just ran through the Sky card and I'm kind of halfway through the DAZN card. So if anything comes on, remember this is about anything boxing. So if you don't want to talk about the Sky or the DAZN card, but you want to talk about pressing matter or Canelo, Golovkin, and Joshua Usyk, drop a comment in and we'll bring the questions on. Got a question here from David Fulton here, boxing historian. He says Fulton is a good all-rounder in my opinion. He can pick, he can jab, slip and slide, and a good little fighter all around. I'm excited about him. Yeah, Davey, I'm gonna have to agree, mate. Fulton can just about do everything. You know, all this talk about, you know, people not being a hard puncher and all this, they hit hard enough to get respect. And I do believe, and I'm sure Davey and people in the chat are going to agree or disagree, that if you hit somebody cleanly enough and often enough, they will go. That's my opinion. Also, Davey's put on another comment. Ford was a good fight on the DAZN too, bro. Yeah, he was. I like that Ray Ford. I really do. I was just saying earlier that I saw Ray Ford a few times now on the DAZN cards. He's been quite low on the undercards. I've seen him on the Before the Bell bits that they do, you know. And he got a draw, and I thought he was slightly unlucky with that draw. But I've seen him since then. I think he got a stoppage against a British fighter whose name just escapes me at this moment. And I kind of thought, this kid, there's something about this kid. And that performance from Ray Ford showed me that his ring IQ is up there. His jab is up there. His jab is so accurate. His footwork's so good. He really picks his shot well. He knows when to throw his backhand. Um, and he's just almost he's just effective with every punch. And what I like to see is because I'm biased towards uh, outside boxing rather than inside boxing. He does float my boat. He's very, very skillful. And I've said earlier, and I'll say it again, I'm going to put him in the same category in the future as Tevin Farmer. I think he can get to a world title. If he's matched correctly, he knuckles down, he learns. I think he can go the way. I really do. Imran, how you doing, mate? How you doing? Thanks for coming on. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's good to see that you're here. And like I said, Imran, I know you're very knowledgeable about your boxing, so just drop any comments that you can. The Sky card, the DAZN card, or any other fights that you've seen. Let me know. So that was my thoughts on MJ. Also on the card, well, the final fight on the card, Jesse Rodriguez against Soaring Versailles. Guys, the reason why I'm taking that deep intake of breath, if you haven't seen Bam Bam Rodriguez, yeah, all I'm going to say is go and watch him. I know I say that a lot. I know I do say that a lot, but this guy, there's something special about this kid. This kid is 22 years old, the youngest world champion in boxing today. He became world champion in February this year. He was a light flyweight, stepping super flyweight, jumping up 2 weight classes to fight the super flyweight world champion called Quadras, and he got the win. And it wasn't just he scrapped the win. He bossed Quadras in that fight. And Quadras was a seasoned campaigner. So this was no duck egg. This wasn't some guy that they got off the back of a long layoff or had been injured or had been on the decline. This was a guy who was probably, still in his pomp, who really gave other world champions a good run for his money. He come up from 2 weight classes below. He was just given an opportunity. They probably thought he wouldn't take it, and he took it with both hands. He's a quality fighter. He really, really was. We just had a couple of comments, so I'll just read them. Davey, boxing historian, says he couldn't believe. He said Fulton and Inoue were even closer than pound for pound. Long, he's not achieved that status yet, but I'm excited for him. So he said before that I had a debate on Imran's YouTube video. He's on about Imran Mir there, who's a good friend of the channel. He said guys were there, were talking about pound for pound, and I put Inoue at number 1. And this guy said, how can you put Inoue above Fulton? Inoue is a 3-weight world champion. Yeah, that's an interesting point. I would definitely put Inoue above Fulton, in my opinion. There's an argument about whether Fulton would be on the pound for pound list. I would probably argue he deserves to be. I don't have a problem with Inoue being at number 1. I wouldn't put him in my number 1, but he's up there. He's up there. He should be in anyone's top 3. I mean, who am I? I'm just Ray, right? Who am I to say who should be in your top 3? But yeah, I can see why you would put Inoue at number 1. We've got to remember with Inoue's knocking out world champions, people that you should be having a hard 10 rounds, 11 rounds, 12-round fights with. He's stopping. If you look at his resume, it's the who's who of champions in and around the bantamweight, super flyweight division. He's stopping them. He's like with ease. The hardest fight he had was against Donaire in 2019, and that was because he broke his orbital bone. Now, Donaire was a lot fit. Go back and watch that first fight. You'll see Donaire was a lot physically bigger than him. You could tell Donaire had been up at featherweight, super bantamweight, and Inoue at the time looked like a super flyweight, I would say. 3 years later, Inoue is now a bantamweight. He's now a physical, strong bantamweight, and you could tell that made all the difference. And that physicality he's added to his game, as well as the speed and accuracy he had, the skill set he had, and he got rid of Donaire in 2 rounds like effortlessly. So in my opinion, Inoue deserves to be right up there. So Davey, go on, give us your top 3. And he has. So he says his top 3 is Inoue, then Usyk, then Canelo. He says, I know heavyweights don't go in, but Usyk is a 2-weight champ in my eyes, and that qualifies him. Yeah, I would have to agree. With that. For me, Canelo's still always in there for what he's achieved. Usyk becoming a 2-weight world champion. Don't forget, Usyk was undisputed at cruiserweight. And in Inoue, in my opinion, I know Davey said it, and I was going to say it. You're going to have to add Inoue in that mix with the likes of Fulton, the winner of Fulton and Akhmadiev. MJ is going to have to come and see Inoue. So Inoue is going to have to step up from bantamweight to super bantamweight to fight the winner of those guys, and what a fight that would be. I would probably say MJ, Akhmadiev, and Fulton are more skilled in Inoue, but because Inoue is so quick, so technically sound, so accurate and so powerful, he's always in with a chance. And he's proven how effective he is and how good he is against bigger opponents. In fact, I would argue he's better being a shorter man against bigger opponents because he sees more openings, particularly when they're coming forward. So it's going to be really interesting. Imran says his number one's Canelo with Inoue and Usyk. Again, you can't argue with that, Imran. Good shout. Davies saying Crawford then Fulton. Yeah, Crawford. Yeah, again, that goes down to who you like more, Crawford or Spence, but Crawford's achieved more in his career. And for me, pound for pound is always what have you done? What have you done? Ability is important, resume is important, but also what have you done? Because some of these guys haven't been as active. So pound for pound should be for the best active fighters. Again, that's just me. Different people have, because there's nothing set in stone on what a pound for pound list should be like. Some people that have heavyweights in, some people don't. But for me, it's always about what have people done for me lately. Joel, who have you got in your top 3, mate? You told us you've got Usyk as your number 1, Inoue number 2, and then Canelo number 3. Yeah, again, it looks as though everyone's kind of got the same top 3, but in a different order. So I ain't going to argue too much there. But I want to come back to talking about Bam Bam guys, because I really rate this kid. And he could have easily been a flash in the pan. He could have easily been an Andy Ruiz. He could have easily been just a one-hit kind of wonder. He could have done a Cambosis. He could have had a great win. And then, in his next fight, not being so good, but he was up against Saul Rungvisai, and people that don't know Rungvisai, he had those 2 wins back in 2017 against Chocolatito, who for me is the best inside fighter in boxing today. He had a record of 50 wins and 5 defeats going in. So Imran's just said there, who's the guy? Is that the guy that headlined the DAZN lineup? Yes, that's Bam Bam. Jesse Rodriguez Franco, the brother of Josh Franco. Check him out, mate. Check him out. Look at him at BOXXER, then watch this fight on YouTube or watch it back on DAZN. This was a real interesting fight, because where I'm getting to is I'm building up Rungvisai, for those that don't know, because I'm trying to say that he's a veteran. He's a veteran. Not just that, he wasn't washed up. I know people talk about his long layoff and what have you. What people have got to realise is when you get to that top level, world level, elite level, you can afford to fight once a year. Because you've done all you served your apprenticeship, you've had all those hard fights, you've had all those training camps under your belt, you're still maintaining that level of fitness. So you can get away with having a 12-month layoff, 13-month layoff, 14-month layoff, as long as it's not because of an injury. I wouldn't necessarily say, there's a bit of ring rust there. It's only when you get to 2-3 years, I start saying, "Oh, this the ring was there." You got these guys are probably still in the gym sparring. I'll give you an example. Look at Mikey Garcia. Mikey Garcia had a two-year layoff. That was more due to management issues. But look at him when he came back. He was spectacular. He had a spectacular run, and everyone was saying it was like he never left. But going back to talking about Bam Bam, Bam Bam was in against an active opponent who was far bigger than him. But Bam Bam was the boss in the fight. Bam Bam was dictating the pace. Bam Bam was the effective aggressor in that fight. He was on the front foot, but he showed he could box on the back foot just as well. It got to a point where Saul Rungsfry never really knew what to do with Bam Bam. Bam Bam tied him up. Bam Bam was beating him up in there. Imran, thanks very much for joining us, mate. I know you've got to go. We hope to catch you soon. So thank you very much for coming on. Mickey C says he's got Usyk, Canelo, and Crawford. Interesting. He hasn't got a new in there, but look, Crawford. He's look at it. Look at who he's fought again. Welterweight, although there's, but he had those straight stoppage wins at welterweight. So really, to have Crawford in the top 3 or even in the top 5 can't be sniffed at. Crawford's a quality operator, and I think people will see that when the Spence fight gets made. Definitely, he's come back at me again, and he says that Loma at one point as well. It is a massive debate where nobody will be right. Of course, that's what pound for pound is. It's a mythical sort of list, and nobody's going to be right, of course. That's why I never really criticize anybody's pound for pound list, to be honest. But I can definitely see why you've got Crawford in there, fella. Boxing historian, I'd have Loma pound for pound. In fact, I'd put him at number 5 instead of Fulton. Yeah, of course. Also, guys, another name to throw in that mix. Now he's undisputed. How about Jamel Charlo? Would you guys put him in your pound for pound list? Let me know if you would, or let me know if you wouldn't. Josh Taylor as well. Does the defeat against Jack Catterall change your opinion of Josh Taylor? That's an interesting one. I've had a few people have comments with me, dialogues with me, texts with me, kind of say Josh Taylor's kind of out there, pound for pound list. For me, I think that's a bit harsh. I think you're entitled to an off night, but we'll have to see with Josh Taylor how he comes back. Dave Lockie, Dave, how you doing, mate? Don't worry about it, Dave. Don't worry about it, Dave. I've gone through the Sky card. I'm just going through the last fight of the DAZN card. I'm just, again, talking about, waxing lyrical about Jesse Bam Bam Rodriguez, how this kid's come up from like flyweight, winning a world title at super flyweight, and he bullied. If you look on the Ring magazine, I'm sure Saul Ring Versailles is the top 2 or maybe 3rd. I may be wrong, guys. Call me out if I'm wrong. You might be 3rd in the Ring magazine list in the ratings for super flyweight. You got to remember, you got Estrada there, Chocolatito there. I'm sure you've got Julio Cesar Martinez in there, Sonny Edwards in there. You've got some real big names in that division. And as you guys, because you're a well-educated boxing audience, you'll know super flyweights, light flyweights, they don't have many fights before they're in world title contention. So for me, there's some real interesting matchups. Super flyweight, don't be surprised, guys, within the next 12 and 18 months, you see massive fights in these lighter weights. I just talked about the super bantamweight division, and there's one big fight left in that division. We're talking about Inoue in the bantamweight division, and then stepping down, you're talking about the super flyweight division. You're going to see some big fights in the next sort of like 12, 18 months. There's a lot of big names in those 3 weight classes alone. So Bam Bam for me is in that mix. Boxing historian Davies come back, saying Josh Taylor in the opinionated pound for pound, won't have him, but personally I do. Maybe 7 or 8 in the list. Josh Taylor has an outstanding resume so far. One thing you can't one thing you can't take away from Josh Taylor is he fought everyone he needed to fight in 140. He's fought everyone he needed to fight in 140. Probably the only person that he hasn't had a chance to fight is Teofimo Lopez, because Teofimo Lopez has come into that weight class. But for me, Teofimo's got to prove he deserves a shot at Josh Taylor. It shouldn't be the other way around. You know, I think Teofimo Lopez is still carrying that ego, that arrogance, that perhaps Josh should drop everything and come and fight him. No, what you proved, what you've done at 140 is to come and see Josh. Josh is the man at 140 at this moment. Go and see him. Yes, that rematch needs to happen. Yes, he needs to put that, because it was arguably a loss against Jack Catterall, he needs to put that right with an emphatic win. But I believe Josh has got capable of doing that. So I've got to agree with what Boxing Historian's saying there. Joe's coming at me. He says, I think we need to see what Taylor does at welterweight before talking about having him on the pound-for-pound list. Yeah, perhaps. See what he can do. But what happens if he stays at 140 though, Joel? That's what I would say. I mean, you could argue he's probably done enough at 140 to become undisputed. But like I said, I've got to keep the same energy about what has he done for me lately. And yeah, I'm not going to lie, he lost that last fight against Jack Catterall. So yeah, I'll take that. Boxing Historian loves Sonny Edwards, but he's starting to talk like a very cocky guy, possibly huge confidence. Yes, he is. He calls himself the king of Twitter. He is very chatty. He's very talkative. He's very tongue in cheek. It depends how you take him, but he's in a tough division. And I know he put in one of the best performances in lockdown when he beat the South African kid. Don't forget that kid hadn't lost in 13 fights, and Sonny played with him. Sonny's very, very skilled, and he's under the radar. And I think Sonny Edwards is just trying to talk himself into contention, because all the boxing fans are focused on the heavier weights. But there's some real good fighters in that division. And the likes of Saul Rungvisai, aren't finished. Chocolatito, they're still there. Cesar Martinez still there. So yeah, there's some good fights for him to have. Boxing Historians come at us again, saying not just that, Ray, Josh Taylor collected the belts champion after champion. He didn't do it like guys holding 3 belts, like a undisputed fighting the other guy. Yeah, he beat the people he needed to collect the belts, and yeah, you can't dispute that. You've come at me again saying he was Commonwealth in 7 fights. He was a champion in 14 fights, united, unified in 15, undisputed in 18. Yeah. And again, yeah, that's what I think. I think Josh Taylor had an off night. It was Jack Catterall fought out his skin. Jack Catterall's a good fighter. And Dave will tell you in our Facebook chat group that we've got on the Boxing Group Facebook page. I did say Jack Catterall will be tough. Jack Catterall is better than what people think. Jack Catterall can punch. And he's a tricky, awkward customer. But the best Josh Taylor should be getting rid of Jack Catterall. But it wasn't the best Josh Taylor, but it was the best Jack Catterall. Can Jack Catterall do that performance again? Who knows? But when Josh Taylor's at it, I'm not too sure there's many better in that division. Yeah. So, guys, I'm going to leave it there for tonight. Thank you very, very much for all your input, guys. It's been a blast. Time just flies. I mean, wow. Almost done an hour. So, guys, I want to thank you very much for jumping on board. Thank you very much for all the comments in the chat. Greatly appreciated. Yes, that's a good point as well to make. Boxing Historians just reminding us that there was a documentary on Josh Taylor. It tells you everything that he went through in camp, everything, all the personal struggles that he went through. If you guys, if you haven't seen it, you can get it. I believe you can get it on iPlayer. It's still there. Joel's come at us just again. Yeah, every boxer has an off night. That's a very good point, that Joel. People forget that every boxer has an off night. It's how you come back from that. If you're having a few off nights, and it's question marks about your consistency. But if Josh Taylor's emphatic in his next fight, it's pretty much all forgotten. We can be fickle like that, boxing fans. But guys, thank you very much for your time. We're going to do this again, Josh and I, and Scott. At some point, we are going to be doing these lives again. They're great to interact with you guys. You guys can quiz us, put us on the spot, make us sweat, make us squirm. Guys, before I go, don't forget to like. I can see you guys all in the chat, so don't forget to give us a like. It just helps with our algorithm. It helps with us. People getting to see our work, seeing our content. We've got some more content lined up, and we're going to be doing a lot more of these in the next coming weeks. So, guys, thank you very much, and see you guys again soon. Take care.